What would it take for me to go vegetarian? I haven't seriously considered going fully vegetarian because that still requires compromise, but looking at what I eat, I feel like I've unintentionally got pretty close without even trying. And surely dropping my meat intake by 90% is going to make more of a difference than the final 10 will anyway. I think in 30 years' time, the concept of growing and then slaughtering animals for meat will begin to seem strange to us, and in 50 years, barbaric even. There will be increased pressure for governments to hit emission targets and all that, and the extremely inefficient process of raising animals for slaughter will, ironically, be one of the first casualties. Even in the last 10 years, we've seen huge advancements in lab-grown meats and meat alternatives. At some point, that stuff's going to get good and cheap enough to give conventional animal products a run for their money, even without considering the moral implications of slaughtering animals for a luxury commodity. So my sausage, beans and spaghetti meal I showed you a few years ago, one day, just became beans and spaghetti, because the sausages that were in it were low quality processed things, and it wasn't a real hardship to drop them once I discovered that the appeal of that meal came from the hot sauce used to flavour it. So that's a vegetarian meal of mine right there. And my other meals either comprise of pizzas, or they comprise of a bowl of veg, some chips, and a proper thing of some sort. Once I mastered the art of switching the oven on and leaving it for half an hour, many options opened up to me and I began to experiment with advanced cooking techniques, like chucking a frozen chicken pie in the oven for 40 minutes and then eating it. I know, I'm really growing up. But the ever-growing vegetarian selection also has its highlights. And I'm serious when I say that I enjoy some of these just as much as the meat options. I first tried the vegetarian stuff because my girlfriend wants to cut down on her red meat consumption for health reasons, and I was fed up of her giving me all her red meat like she was trying to double my risk of bowel cancer. But now I've tried those vegetarian alternatives, I'm actually just as happy to have them as I am the meat options. And variety is always nice, isn't it? Aldi does these red onion and cheese bakes, which are awesome. The meat-free pasties are big and satisfying, and the meat-free sausage rolls are indistinguishable from the real thing, and hammer home that it's the onion and sage that you've always been able to smell and taste, rather than the meat itself. And given how I can't be bothered to preheat ovens, there's also less risk of poisoning from the meat-free options, which is an added bonus. Which leaves, in my diet, just the pizzas and the tins of fish to contend with. My mum has revealed to me her master secret. You get the cheapest cheese pizza you can find, and then sprinkle proper cheese and slices of onion onto it. And it makes it into a pizza that destroys anything else for taste and value. It's glorious. I still like the occasional chicken or pepperoni pizza for variety, but again, with pizzas, I now have a vegetarian alternative that I enjoy just as much. Which leaves me with my tinned fish. As far as meats go, fish is one of the healthiest that you can have. It's great for your proteins and fatty acids and stuff like that, and I think will be the last thing I drop on my way to vegetarianism for those reasons. When it comes down to it, I don't even know if I like the taste of meat. I don't like fish, full stop. I think even pork can taste downright disgusting. What I like about meat is the texture. It's solid and it's chewy, and I can't stand those meat-free alternatives that are just too soft or bitty. In my opinion, vegan and vegetarian food would be better off just going and producing their own unique meals, instead of trying to be poor imitations of the meat options. I always get something with meat in if I eat out somewhere, and while the texture of some vegetarian sausages is becoming rather good, the taste still leaves much to be desired. And the next step on from vegetarianism is to cut animal products out completely by going vegan, and I'm still a long way off considering that. My sister's vegan, and for her, ignorance is bliss. Vegan chocolate, for instance. It's really expensive, and it's horrible. She thinks it's great and always insists that I try it, and without fail it's horrible and makes me crave the real thing. But even for her, being full vegan is difficult. It can be harder to get all of the vitamins needed, and the one exception she makes to her vegan diet is when it comes to medicine. If a tablet she needs contains lactose or even gelatine, then so be it. Even she, an otherwise hardened, long-term vegan, has had to make concessions in this area, at least until the rest of the world catches up and produces comparable, fully vegan alternatives to these things. It will happen, and as time goes on, it will become easier to go fully vegetarian or even vegan, especially once they figure out how to make vegan milk alternatives not horrible. Something that really works against veganism's appearance is that it's normally lumped in with other stuff, like gluten-free, because it's easier for restaurants or shops just to have one option that ticks all of these requirements. A vegan cake can be quite nice, but when a cake tries to be both vegan and gluten-free, it ends up being horrible. I don't think the usual animal welfare arguments work on me. Yes, I do get attached to animals easily, but yes, I do also think I could slaughter one for food. But no, I wouldn't because I'm lazy and there are systems in place to do it for me. And I wouldn't be able to kill a pet, but I would an animal that's the same as my pet that isn't my pet. And I still don't get the controversy around eating dogs. How is that different from eating other animals? Is it because it's a man's best friend? So what? Whether or not we eat an animal depends on how cute it is now, is it? I do think there is a disconnect in the reasoning here somewhere, and I do wonder what I'll think about my stance on all this when I look back at it in like 40 years' time. How can I put it? I don't care enough about meat to warrant killing an animal for it, but since it happens, I'll make the most of it. I've thought about how I'd value an animal's life. Some creatures are so small that it hardly seems worth killing them for something that isn't even a whole mouthful. But then you get something like a cow, where it can feed so many people and its body can provide so many different services, that its death seems far more justified than that of a smaller animal. So I don't feel so bad if I leave a bit of pork or beef left on my plate. Not that I ever do, but it's hard for me to know where I would draw the line when it comes to valuing an animal's life. As a child, I decided that I didn't want to eat scampi anymore when I discovered how many creatures were required to make a plateful. But then, here I am eating sardines from a tin, so I think my reasoning here is a bit flawed as well. And I've seen equally flawed reasoning from vegetarians. I've had some argue that they wouldn't eat lab-grown meat out of principle, or just because it would seem wrong to do so. But that's ridiculous. Of course it's worth it if you can produce limitless meat from just a few cells harvested from a single animal. I don't know what that process entails. Would it hurt that animal? Would it even kill them? But even if it did, what a step in the right direction even that would be for meat production, going forward forevermore. So I guess, while in debate I've put up some resistance to the idea of going vegetarian, just because I don't like being pressured into doing so, nor having somebody lord their moral high ground over me, in reality, I do see animal-free production as being the way forward, and the day that happens, I don't think it'll even be that much of a hardship for me to make that leap.